I wanted to sit down and run you through my journey from just being a humble, young, overweight boy to eventually becoming a half Ironman.
I did it.
I was never really that into fitness and stuff like that for most of my life. You know, obviously I played football with my friends and stuff like that in school, but I was never very good. But that stopped when I finished school, and I didn't really do much for a while. I tried to get into the gym. You know, I kind of did it, but it didn't really pay off. Eventually, I started to gain some weight. I wasn't really in the best shape, but I started to get into running. I don't really know how that happened. I think it was kind of like I would go to the gym one day and then I'd have a rest day. But I thought, okay, what if I went to the gym one day and then the other day I had, instead of a rest day, I just went for a run.
Here you can see Strava. So I used to live just up here. Used to come out of my house, run down this road, and the first couple of times I could only get to this park here, and then eventually I could get all the way down to this turning here. So this one segment is half a mile there, so I could just about get to there after quite a bit of practice. Then eventually I could go all the way around in a circle and back to my house, and then eventually I could build off that and I could go around 2 times. I didn't have any apps like Strava to track my running. I just used to put a timer on and I'd run around in a circle. It was like 2 miles. It might take me 30 minutes sometimes. Eventually I think I got it down to about 20 minutes. I started to, you know, pay more attention to my running, and that kind of became the main focus of my exercise. And I'd start to track my runs and I'd start to run further and further away. And before I knew it, over a course of a few months, I'd gone from running 2 miles to running 3 or 4 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles. I could run, you know, like 10 miles on a Sunday, a long run day, and I'd just run as far as I could basically away from my house, turn around and run back. We're not talking about any massive sort of pace here, but I could continuously run. A big factor of that was my diet, which I changed up. I went vegan. I was eating a lot healthier. I was eating a lot cleaner. I was starting to pay more attention to what foods made me feel good. You know, if I had a whole pizza on a Saturday night and went for a long run on a Sunday, I wouldn't feel as good as if I'd had a couple sweet potatoes and some veg and some beans on the Saturday night. I'd be flying on the Sunday morning. So as my love for running grew and grew, I kind of stopped going to the gym as much and just focused on the running. And after doing a couple of half marathons in 2016, I actually completed my first full marathon, the Milton Keynes Marathon. 6:30 in the morning, marathon day, ready to go. Fueled up on breakfast, porridge, toast, good marathon running fuel. Now I'm off to Milton Keynes. We're off. 1 mile done. 25 more to go. Up until that point, that was the toughest thing I'd ever done, completing that event. Before I'd even finished the run, like 20 miles in, I thought, I'm never doing this again. I'm never running this far again. This is too much. 19 miles in, just had a quick wee break. It feels like 19 miles. If anyone's done an event like this before, you'll know as soon as you finish, you completely forget about the pain that went into it, and you've just got this immense relief, this feeling like you've never felt before, so proud of what you've accomplished. So then I had to think what was going to be my next challenge. When I turned my focus to triathlon. Found it. I found it. One of my big inspirations for triathlon was Rich Roll. I listened to his podcast, I listened to his book, I brought his book and I've read his book, and it's a great book. And Rich Roll, at the age of like 45, you know, he was a lawyer, he wasn't very healthy, he turned vegan, turned his whole life around pretty much, completed not even just an Ironman, an Ultraman, which is an Ironman over the course of 3 days. Then he completed 5 Ironmans on 5 different islands in Hawaii in a week. So I thought, if he can do that, why can't I just do 1 Ironman, get into triathlon? Obviously we already know I can run a marathon. I was quite decent on a bike. I didn't have a road bike, but I could ride a bike. I couldn't swim though. I never learnt how to front crawl properly. I could only breaststroke, and very slowly. So at the start of 2017, I decided to fully go into the Ironman training, or the triathlon training. I started going to a triathlon club, the Rugby Tri Club. Really helped me a lot. They taught me how to swim basically from nothing, and you can see, if you know anything about swimming, how poor my form is, how slow I'm moving. But over the course of a few months, I gradually got better and better at swimming, got more confident. In May, I started to look around, see what are the options, what half events could I sign up for this year. I ended up signing up for Ironman Weymouth, and it seemed like the perfect event for me. It did have a sea swim in. I'd never even swum in a lake before at this point, but it was at the end of the summer in September, giving me, you know, plenty of time to train for it. So a few weeks before I signed up for the
event, I went off and did some open water swimming just to kind of get used to that. Time to go open water swimming. This was the only swim cap they had at the first time I went open water swimming, so I guess I'm stuck with this. It looks like a minion. I'm stuck with this for life. And if you've ever worn a wetsuit before, it's kind of like buoyant, so you're kind of floating in the water. It makes it a lot easier for you if you're not a confident swimmer. So the open water swimming didn't seem too bad for me. But anyway, I started to plan out my training, and it basically broke it down into the 3 different categories. So I was going to do 2 swims a week, 1 in the pool and then 1 open water swim at a lake near me. On Tuesday nights I go and do a swim session with the club, and that'll be coached, get some tips, hopefully improve my technique, and then on Wednesday I'd kind of go more for the distance and just try and see how many loops of this lake I could do. The whole lake's about half a mile round if you swim in a nice big circle, so that is going to hopefully bring up my distance, and we're going to get a solid 2 hours or so swimming in each week. Then the cycling was going to be slightly different, so I just got into my road biking about a year or so before I actually started training for this, but then I kind of stepped it up to the next level with my Ironman training. And there it is. Wanna look very exciting? It's in fact my first short sleeve tri-suit, my first tri-suit in general. I also got some matching socks. And here I was trying to increase the distance some more, trying to get up to about 100 miles a week on the bike. Hopefully with 2 shorter rides that were going to be more speed focused, and then 1 really long ride that was going to get me closer and closer to the distance that I'd be doing in the half Ironman event, 56-mile bike ride in there. And then running, like I said, this is my area I'm the most confident in, so I didn't push myself too hard. I think this is the area where you're most likely to injure yourself, pushing yourself, running too much. So basically I did 2 with the club, which were 2-hour-long runs, so it wouldn't be a track session. Sometimes doing like 400 meters as fast as you can, then 800 meters as fast as you can, then having a rest, then another 400 meters at 5k pace, 10k pace, half marathon pace, different things every single time, and the same on a Thursday, but that would be out on the street. So doing intervals around parks with different speed loops, doing sprints to lampposts and back. It was a good variety to it, and then on a Sunday I do my long runs, so these would be 10-mile plus runs. One other thing I focused on while training was my diet. I tried to not count calories during this whole training time because a lot of times I'm going to be training multiple times in a day, so I'm probably going to be burning off whatever I put into my body anyway, but my main goal was just to eat as clean as I possibly could. So we're having porridge and things like that for breakfast. This is kind of what a dinner / lunch is looking like at the minute. Some days I was having 4 meals a day. You know, I'd have porridge in the morning, go do some exercise, come back, have a smoothie, then have something a bit later on for lunch before going training, and then after that eat some more. I was probably eating 3,000 calories in training days. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to burn out, basically. And that was even more important as the training moved further and further along. Tuesday, running Wednesday, and then did a double Tuesday, Friday. Also got some swimming on Tuesday and Wednesday. So every single day I've done 2 different activities. It got longer in terms of days, so I might have a rest day, but on a Sunday I do like a 30-mile bike ride followed immediately by a 10-mile run. That's what we call brick training in triathlon. I'm not sure if it's because it's like bricks stacking on top of each other, or because it feels like you're carrying bricks on your back when you're running after you've been on the bike for 2 hours. Either way, it's not very fun, but it's an important part. I'm gonna go cycle 17 miles and then try and run 3 or 4 miles. It wasn't too bad. It felt very... It was strange. Like at first I started running the first 100 meters, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel weird at all. And then it was like, oh, I feel like I can't even run, I'm gonna have to really slow down. And I kind of slowed down, then there was a bit of a downhill, I felt a bit better, and then kind of flattened out, and it was still a bit weird, and then eventually I kind of just got used to it. It kind of just felt like I was running with tired legs, which I guess is what I'm training for. Another important part of triathlon is kind of the 4th discipline, which is transitioning. You have to transition between getting out of just having a 1.2 mile swim and then immediately getting on your bike as quickly as possible because you don't want to waste much time. So to train for that, I actually signed up for my first ever Olympic distance triathlon, which I was going to do before the event. I did this in July, and it was a great test of how my training had been going, and also give me good tips on areas to improve. I'd practiced transitioning at home, which is something a lot of people recommend, and at my Mallory Park swims on a Wednesday night I was also cycling a lot and running a lot, so it gave me a good idea, and overall I really enjoyed my time on this event. I had Nicole there to support me, and it actually went by really quickly. You can see my number there. I think I did it in about 2 hours 50. It was in July 2017, so that was about a month and a half into my training, so it was a good way to see how far I still had to go. But the good thing about Olympic distance is the swim is not actually that much shorter than an Ironman distance. I think this was about 1,500 meters, and a half Ironman is about 1,900 meters. I did find it quite hard to swim in a place I hadn't swum before. Because I'd been doing the same open water swimming, I got very used to you know, the route you do. I didn't really have to look that much, but here, when you don't know where you're going, you're swimming somewhere you haven't seen before, sighting is very important and something I definitely knew I needed to practice on before going to Weymouth. I found the bike quite difficult getting out of the water. I often felt like very hungry immediately. I don't know if it's just because I haven't swam that much in my life, but as soon as I get out of a swimming pool or out of a lake, I'm very hungry. So on the bike, it was important to get a lot of nutrition in there. I think I went for like naked bars on that event because they were quite small. It's not a long event, so you don't need too many calories, but it was just good to have something in your stomach to get you going, and a couple gels as I was going along. And the bike actually went quite quickly, so I think it was about 27 miles, and then the run was a 10k run. Here was where I really got into my own. It's clear that running was my strongest area because I was overtaking a lot of people while running, whereas on the bike people had been flying past me the whole way. But the brick training obviously paid off. I wasn't in too much pain. I got to the finish line and I felt like I could keep going, which is something I hadn't felt a lot of times before. Maybe that means I didn't push myself as much in this event, but it wasn't about getting the best time for me. It was just about really practicing triathlons and how they work and seeing how things, setting up your bike in the morning and things like that, you don't really train when you're just practicing at home. So it was a great event and I felt really strong after that training. So as we got closer and closer to the event, I think I kind of got more confident some days, less confident other days, but over the months I just kept training, kept pushing myself every day. Some weeks you'll have slip-ups where, you know, things don't go your way, you've got to work more than you thought you had.
The Ironman diet was all going well until Nicole got a pack of these pink wafers and I cannot stop eating them.
But rest is another important part of training, getting enough sleep, getting enough food and taking those days off. If your body is really feeling it from the day before, you know, take a day off because you want to still get to the start line, you want to get to the event.
That's 60 miles done in 4 hours, decent.
And before I knew it, the training basically flew by. It was rest week or taper week, so the week before the event you just kind of relax, you really lower your training.
We're 2 days before the race, just about to get everything packed in the car ready to head down the day before. So we've got everything we should need here except for my bike and my helmet. Wallet, got my ID in there, need that. Flip-flops for going into the water. This is kind of in order of when I'll need it. My watch, because what's the point of doing an Ironman if you can't show it on Strava. Got some lubricant, great for getting in and out of the wetsuit. Also helps hopefully with the sea rubbing on your skin. Hopefully it's going to stop me from bruising or having any rashes. Got goggles there. Got a swing cap. I shouldn't need that. They should have an Ironman one, but I'm just thinking just in case I get there and they're like, oh, we don't have any more Ironman ones, you need your own, and I've got one ready at least just in case. Tri-suit there, and then matching socks. I'm probably going to use my socks on the bike. Got my bike shoes there. Got my running belt, might put that on the belt on the bike just to have my number on me, and some glasses if it's raining. I'll probably put the glasses on. Then we've got water bottles for the bike, probably 2 of these on the bike, probably the 2 matching ones, and then one of these for afterwards. And then we've got all sorts of snacks here. Obviously this isn't going to all be on the bike. I'm going to go for 2 gels, a flapjack, and then 2 of these snack bars. That's going to be what I take with me, and then these powders will be in the water bottles. Then we've got for running trainers, wishful thinking, got some sun cream, doubt I'm going to need that. And then for afterwards I've got foam roller. Hopefully I can find a bit of space and roll my legs out afterwards, because then I've got to go on a 3-hour drive home. So I've got clothes for afterwards as well, so some trousers, some underwear, t-shirt, some shower gel as well, and some deodorant. So hopefully I can have a shower afterwards, and that should be everything we need.
We drove down to Weymouth on the Saturday.
We're packed and off to Weymouth for 3 hours.
Registered for the event at Ironman Weymouth. It was a bit of a mess because like the swim start, the bike start, the run start, the finish line, they're all in totally different places, so you do have to kind of run around a lot.
We've made it to Weymouth. We can see the sea. I've got my bag. Problem is we've only got 5 minutes left to rack my bike, and all my stuff's in the back here because we're stuck in traffic.
And I also got to go to my first Ironman briefing, which was quite exciting. This is when I really started to feel nervous. I feel like before that I'd been getting so prepared, trying to get everything ready for the event. I hadn't really had a chance to think about it. As soon as I'd got my bike racked, I had all my gear ready to go, then I had to sit down and watch this like briefing on the event. Oh, it was quite scary, especially when they'd run through all the rules, and I was just panicking like, what if I accidentally break one of these rules? I get disqualified, and then I've just spent all this money and all this time training, and I'm not going to have anything to show for it. Thankfully, that didn't happen. I guess I've got to go eat some carbs now, and then go to sleep. It's about 9 o'clock now. The alarm is set for 4, so we'll see how much sleep I get. So we got to race day. We got up very, very early to start the journey to Weymouth. We've just been staying a couple towns over. It's 5:43, no, 4:43 a.m. We're on our way to Weymouth now. Ready to race?
You can tell your time because it's 4:37.
4:37 it is. And I've had a couple hours sleep. So they joked about it in the thing. Oh, you're gonna enjoy 2 hours sleep, and yeah, I might have a little bit more than that. But now, this might be the earliest I've ever ate porridge. Time to have my little tub of porridge that'll hopefully get me through the bike ride. And after a queue up for the toilet and a bit of time standing around, my wetsuit was on and I was ready to start the event. And it was basically starting on the beach, queuing up with a load of other people to get into the open water, the sea swim, which apparently everyone had said before, it's not going to be that choppy. That's a word that gets thrown around a lot, choppy, which is like how wavy it's going to be, how much it's going to push you around. I did not prepare enough for the sea swim. It threw me all over the place. I get hit in the face by waves. I'd take a couple strokes, go up for a breath, and then as I took the breath, water would just come in my face. Seawater, which was nice and salty and not very nice. And on the way out, it was very tough. A few points I had to stop and just do some breaststroking, which a lot of the people were doing, and I was breaststroking and going just as fast as people that were front crawling, so I don't think it slowed me down too much. As soon as we got to the first buoy, we got to take a right, and then the waves were kind of coming to the side of you, but not directly in front of you, so it wasn't quite as bad. I got to swim along and then turn around at the next buoy, and this one was a lot easier. You had the waves behind you pushing you forward, and before I knew it, I'd finished a swim.
Woo! Go on, John!
My target finish time for the event was about 6 hours and 30 minutes. I kind of broke that down in my head, giving me like an hour for the swim, 3.5 hours for the bike, 2 hours for the run. And my swim, I did really well. I finished it in 52 minutes. I mean, that doesn't include transition time, so by the time I got out of the water, ran to the bike and got on the bike, it was pretty close to my target time of an hour. Then we headed up on the bike.
Go on, John!
There wasn't too much excitement on the bike. The course, it's kind of hilly, but not overly hilly. Like, there's bigger hills around where I live than there are on this course, I think. So, and it was quite enjoyable, to be honest. So I did have a couple dramas. Basically, at some point in transporting my bike down and then racking it up, my front brake had came loose, which is the brake I use the most. A demonstration of the bike brake. So pull the front brake in there, closes, but you can still keep going. And it's not very good when you're going 20 miles an hour around a corner. And at one point I tried to use my front brake when coming too fast into a corner. Obviously it didn't do anything, and I just went into a bush, which was quite funny for the old people that were in the village cheering me on and then kind of laughing as I fell over into the bush. But other than that, the bike was fairly uneventful. It took me around 3.5 hours, or 3:24 altogether, so again, just about on my target. 16.6 miles per hour, which is quite fast for me. Normally I average about 15, so I think my training had obviously paid off. On the bike, I drank and ate quite a lot, which I think kind of worked against me at a few points. I had too many gels, and they were giving out bottles with energy in them, so I had already 2 on my bike. I downed one of them fairly quickly when I knew I could get another one, and took one of those, and it started to blow my stomach at a few points on the bike, but I got through it and ate a couple flapjacks as well on there, and then we got to the run.
Woo! Well done!
It's a very nice run on the Weymouth seafront, and you basically just do 3.5 laps up and down the Weymouth seafront. I wasn't feeling great, like I said, my stomach had been playing up, but as soon as I got off the bike, my knee started to hurt, and I think that was, I don't know how my knee had hurt, because my whole time in my training, my knee had never hurt. It had hurt before when I just ran, training for my marathon before, but in my whole training time, my knee hadn't hurt when I was running, and it was really painful. It really slowed me down at a few points on the run, so my average pace dropped down quite a bit. So the first couple miles, we were talking about under 8 minute pace where my knee wasn't too bad. Then it was 8:30 per mile, 8:40, then 9 minute mile, and that was when my knee really started to play up, and at a few points I thought I was honestly going to have to stop. But I knew I had enough time. Even if I had to stop running, I had plenty of time in the bank to not get hit by the cut-off, and I could just walk through the rest of the event if I had to. But I just thought, okay, I'll just keep running as long as I can. I'll run until I can't run anymore, And you know, before I knew it, I was looking at my watch and I was like, okay.
Well done.
6 miles in.
Now we're at 6 miles, now we're at 7 miles. I'm over halfway through. I can probably keep running the rest of the way. I kept going, kept pushing myself. The support along the beach was great and the people cheering me on. I saw Nicole a couple of times who was there filming me. She'd been there all day for me and she cheered me on, and it really spurred me on, it really kept me going. And before I knew it, I made it to the finish line, and I finally got to the finish line. I could see that red carpet in front of me that I've been visualizing for so long. I had half a banana in my hand that I just got from the last aid station. I had no idea what to do. Months and months of training, of learning how to swim, of learning how to swim, bike and run in a row without cramping up had paid off, and I'd finally got to the finish line. I had no idea what to do, so I just put my hands up in the air and I crossed the finish line. And all of a sudden my whole body hurt because I'd finally finished the event. It's like my body knew that it didn't have to do any more, but that was an even more proud moment than doing the Milton Keynes Marathon. I think just because of the sheer time put in, I managed to go in under my target by a few minutes. So I think I finished at like 6:27 or something like that, and I got my medal placed around my head, and that was it. The months and months of training had paid off, and I finished my first half Ironman. So that's the story. So if you've watched this video just to see my story, if you've watched this because you're interested in doing an Ironman yourself, a half Ironman, all I can say is sign up for it, do it. You're not going to regret it. It's going to be one of the most amazing experiences you have. And, you know, all the hard work, all the pain, it is worth it in the end. Because now you got this cool medal that you can just look at, and you've got your Strava page, which is, you know, your half Ironman. It's exciting. So thank you for watching, and I guess I'll see you when it's time for the big one.